Ryan sat at the kitchen table, staring at his laptop screen. His hands were shaking slightly as he clicked on the email notification. Another college response had arrived. He already knew what it would say before he even opened it. The subject line read the same way the last 12 had. Regarding your application. He clicked it open. The first line confirmed his fears. We regret to inform you. Ryan didn't need to read the rest. He closed his laptop slowly and put his head in his hands. That was the 13th rejection. He had 2 more schools left to hear from, but at this point, hope felt like a cruel joke. His mom walked into the kitchen, carrying grocery bags. She took one look at his face and knew immediately. She didn't say anything at first. She just set down the bags and sat next to him, placing her hand on his shoulder. Another one? She asked quietly. Ryan nodded. He couldn't bring himself to speak. His throat felt tight and he was fighting back tears. He was 17 years old, about to graduate high school in 2 months, and he had nowhere to go. All his friends were posting on social media about their college acceptances. They were buying university sweatshirts, joining admitted student groups, and talking about roommate assignments. Meanwhile, Ryan was collecting rejection letters like they were some kind of twisted hobby. I don't understand, his mom said, and he could hear the confusion in her voice. Your grades are good. You've done everything right. That was the worst part. Ryan had done everything right. He had a 3.8 grade point average. He was in the top 15% of his class. He was captain of the debate team, which had won the regional championship last year. He volunteered every Saturday at the local library, helping elementary school kids with their reading. He had solid test scores. His essay was good, or at least he thought it was. His teachers had written him strong recommendation letters. On paper, Ryan looked like exactly the kind of student colleges wanted. But apparently that wasn't enough anymore. The competition was fiercer than anyone had warned him about. There were thousands of students just like him, or better than him, all fighting for the same spots. His guidance counselor, Mr. Patterson, had been just as surprised as everyone else. When Ryan went to his office after the 10th rejection, Mr. Patterson had pulled up his application file and gone through it line by line. I don't see any red flags here, he had said, genuinely puzzled. Your application is solid. Really solid, but solid wasn't enough. Ryan had applied to 15 schools. 2 were Ivy League universities, which he knew were long shots, but he had applied anyway because why not try? 5 were competitive state schools. 8 were what everyone called safety schools, colleges where his grades and scores were well above their average admitted student. He should have gotten into at least a few of those safety schools. That's how it was supposed to work, except it didn't work that way. Not for him. The rejections from the Ivy League schools hadn't hurt that much. He had expected those. The rejections from the competitive state schools stung a little more, but he had told himself it was fine because he still had his safety schools. But then the safety schools started rejecting him too, and that's when the real panic set in. Ryan's dad came home from work that evening and found him still sitting at the kitchen table. Hey, buddy, his dad said, trying to sound upbeat. How was your day? Ryan's mom gave his dad a look that said everything. His dad's smile faded. Another one? He asked. Number 13, Ryan said quietly. His dad pulled out a chair and sat down across from him. For a moment, nobody said anything. The kitchen clock ticked loudly on the wall. Finally, his dad spoke. You've still got 2 more schools to hear from. Don't give up yet. Ryan wanted to believe that. He really did. But with 13 rejections already stacked against him, what were the odds that the last 2 schools would say yes? That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in his mind. What had he done wrong? Where had he failed? He thought about his college essay, wondering if he should have written about something different. He thought about his extracurriculars, wondering if he should have joined more clubs or played a sport. He thought about his grades, wondering if he should have taken more advanced classes, even though his schedule had already been packed. The worst part wasn't just the rejection. It was the humiliation. Every day at school, someone else was celebrating. His best friend Jake had gotten into his dream school and wouldn't stop talking about it. His lab partner in chemistry had gotten a full scholarship to a prestigious university. Even kids who had lower grades than him were getting accepted places. Ryan started avoiding the cafeteria at lunch because he couldn't handle hearing one more person talk about college acceptances. He started taking different routes through the hallways to avoid running into certain people. He stopped checking social media because every post seemed to be someone else's good news. His debate team coach pulled him aside one afternoon. "I heard you've been having a tough time with college applications," she said. "I want you to know that this doesn't define you. You're an incredibly talented young man." Ryan appreciated her words, but they felt empty. If he was so talented, why didn't any college want him? 2 weeks later, the 14th rejection arrived. Ryan didn't even feel anything when he opened it. He had gone numb. One school left. Just one more chance. The final letter came on a Tuesday morning. Ryan's hands weren't shaking anymore when he opened it. He had no expectations left to break. He clicked on the email and saw the familiar words. "We regret to inform you, 15 applications, 15 rejections, 0 acceptances." Ryan closed his laptop and sat in silence. Graduation was 6 weeks away. All his classmates would be walking across that stage knowing where they were headed next. Ryan would be walking across that same stage with absolutely no idea what his future held. He felt like he had failed at the one thing that was supposed to set up the rest of his life. College wasn't just about education anymore. It was supposed to be about opportunities, connections, and building a future. Without it, Ryan felt lost. His mom found him sitting in his room later that afternoon. "What are you going to do?" she asked gently. Ryan looked up at her. "I honestly have no idea." Ryan spent the first week after his final rejection in a kind of fog. He went through the motions at school, showed up to his shifts at the library, and tried to act normal. But inside he felt hollow. His parents kept asking him about his plans, and he kept giving them the same answer. He didn't know. The idea of taking a gap year felt like admitting defeat. In his mind, gap years were for rich kids who wanted to travel Europe or find themselves. They weren't for people like him who had simply failed to get into college. But what other choice did he have? Reapply next year? The thought of going through that whole process again made him feel sick. 3 weeks before graduation, his mom came home with unexpected news. "I was talking to Carol at work today," she said. Carol was his mom's friend who worked in human resources. Her company is looking for someone to help in their tech department. It's just basic stuff, helping with customer service and learning their software. She said you could start after graduation if you want. Ryan wasn't sure how to feel. A job at a tech startup wasn't exactly what he had imagined for himself after high school. But then again, sitting around the house feeling sorry for himself wasn't a great option either. "What kind of company is it?" he asked. "They make software for small businesses," his mom explained. "Carol says it's a good company. Small but growing. The pay isn't amazing, but it's something." Ryan thought about it for a day before calling Carol. She seemed genuinely happy to hear from him. "We're not looking for anything fancy," she told him over the phone. "Mostly you'd be answering customer questions, helping people troubleshoot problems with the software, maybe doing some data entry. But you'd learn a lot about how the business side of tech works." He took the job. What else was he going to do? Graduation day came and went. Ryan smiled for pictures, hugged his family, and tried not to think about how different this day had turned out from what he had imagined. While his friends talked excitedly about summer plans before college, Ryan stayed quiet. He started work the following Monday. The office was smaller than he expected, just 15 people working in a converted warehouse space. His boss, Tom, was a guy in his early 30s who wore jeans and sneakers to work. "We're pretty casual here," Tom said, showing Ryan around. "Don't worry about not knowing everything. You'll pick it up as you go." The first few weeks were overwhelming. Ryan had to learn the company's software inside and out, so he could help customers who called with problems. Most of the customers were owners of small businesses, people who ran restaurants, retail stores, or service companies. They weren't tech experts. They just needed the software to work so they could run their businesses. Ryan quickly realized something. The software his company made was complicated. Too complicated. Customers called with the same problems over and over again. They couldn't figure out how to do basic tasks. The interface was confusing. The instructions didn't make sense to people who weren't tech-savvy. At first, Ryan just did his job. He answered the phone, walked customers through solutions, and moved on to the next call. But the repetition started to bother him. He was solving the same problems 50 times a day. There had to be a better way. One evening, about 3 months into the job, Ryan stayed late at the office. He had been thinking about one particular feature that customers constantly struggled with: inventory management. Small business owners needed to track what they had in stock, what they needed to order, and what was selling well, but the current software made it way too complicated. Ryan opened up his laptop and started sketching out ideas. What if there was a simpler way to do this? What if you could see everything you needed on one screen instead of clicking through multiple pages? What if the software could send automatic alerts when you were running low on something? He started teaching himself to code. He spent his evenings watching YouTube tutorials and taking free online courses. He had taken one computer science class in high school, but that was it. Everything else he had to figure out on his own. His parents thought he was wasting his time. "You should be working on your college applications for next year," his dad said. "You can't just work at this startup forever." But Ryan wasn't thinking about college anymore. He was thinking about the problem in front of him. For the first time since all those rejection letters, he felt excited about something. He was learning because he wanted to, not because he had to for a grade. After 2 months of working on it during his free time, Ryan had built a basic prototype. It was rough, but it worked. He had created a simple inventory management app that connected to the main software, but made everything easier to understand. He showed it to Tom. Tom stared at the screen for a long moment. "You built this? On your own?" Ryan nodded, suddenly nervous. "I know it's not perfect, but I thought it might help with all those customer service calls we get about inventory stuff." Tom clicked through the app, testing different features. "This is actually really good," he said finally. "How long did this take you?" "A couple months. I've been working on it at night." Tom leaned back in his chair. "You know what? We should test this with a few customers, see if it actually solves their problems." They started with 5 small businesses, offering them the app for free in exchange for feedback. Within 2 weeks, all 5 businesses said they loved it. It saved them time. It was easier to use. It actually helped them run their businesses better. Word spread quickly in the local business community. One owner told another, who told another. Within a month, 20 businesses were asking to use Ryan's app. Tom approved making it an official add-on to the company's main software. But Ryan saw something bigger. These small businesses didn't just need inventory management. They needed lots of things made simpler. He started working on more features, expanding the app. He taught himself more advanced coding techniques. He watched videos about user interface design and studied how successful apps were built. 6 months after starting his job at the startup, Ryan had 50 businesses using his app. They weren't paying for it yet. He was still giving it away for free. But they were using it every day, and they were telling him it made their lives easier. His mom noticed the change in him. "You seem happy," she said one evening while he was working on his laptop at the kitchen table. Ryan looked up, surprised. "Yeah, I guess I am. Are you going to reapply to colleges?" He had been thinking about that question a lot lately. A year ago, he would have said absolutely yes. College was the only path forward. But now he wasn't so sure. "Maybe," he said. "But right now I'm learning more doing this than I ever learned in a classroom." His mom smiled. "Just don't close any doors, okay?" Ryan nodded, but in his mind he wasn't thinking about closing doors. He was thinking about building new ones. It started with a phone call that Ryan almost didn't answer. He was in the middle of fixing a bug in his app when his phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. He usually let unknown numbers go to voicemail, but something made him pick up this time. "Is this Ryan?" a woman's voice asked. "Yeah. Speaking." "Hi, my name is Jennifer Lopez, and I'm a producer for Channel 7 News. We're doing a story about young entrepreneurs in the community, and your name came up. Would you be interested in talking with us?" Ryan was confused. "I think you have the wrong person. I'm not an entrepreneur. I just work at a tech company." Jennifer laughed. "That's not what we heard. We've been talking to small business owners around town, and about a dozen of them mentioned this app you created that's been helping them. They said you're a recent high school graduate who taught yourself to code. That sounds like a pretty good story to us." Ryan's heart started beating faster. He had never thought of himself as having a story worth telling. "I mean, I just made something that seemed useful. It's not that big of a deal. Why don't you let us decide that?" Jennifer said warmly. "Would you be willing to meet with us? Just a short interview. Maybe let us film you working on the app. It would be a nice human interest piece." Ryan agreed, though he felt weird about it. He told his boss, Tom, who thought it was great. "This could be good publicity for the company," Tom said. "And honestly, you deserve some recognition for what you've built." The news crew showed up at Ryan's house on a Saturday morning. It was just Jennifer, a cameraman, and a guy handling sound equipment. They were friendlier and more casual than Ryan had expected. Jennifer asked him questions while they filmed him at his laptop, showing her how the app worked. "So tell me," Jennifer said, "how does a kid right out of high school end up creating software that local businesses are raving about?" Ryan hesitated. He hadn't told many people about his college rejections. It felt too personal, too embarrassing, but something about the way Jennifer asked made him want to be honest. "I actually had kind of a rough year," he started. "I applied to 15 colleges and got rejected from all of them. Every single one. I didn't know what to do with myself, so I took this job. And I guess I just found something I was good at." Jennifer's expression softened. "That must have been really difficult." "It was," Ryan admitted. "I felt like a complete failure. But then I started working with these small business owners and I realized they had real problems that needed solving. It wasn't about grades or test scores anymore. It was about whether I could actually help people." They filmed for about 2 hours. Jennifer asked him about the app, about teaching himself to code, about his plans for the future. They also interviewed a few business owners who used his app, including the owner of a local bakery who said Ryan's software had saved her business during a tough financial period. "Before this app, I was drowning in spreadsheets and sticky notes," the bakery owner told the camera. "I didn't know what I had in stock, what I needed to order when things were going bad. This young man created something so simple that even I could use it. And I can barely send an email." When the interview was over, Ryan didn't think much more about it. Jennifer said the segment would air in a few weeks, and he went back to his normal routine, working his day job, improving his app in the evenings, and slowly building up his user base. The segment aired on a Tuesday evening during the local news. Ryan's parents gathered around the TV to watch it. The story was about 4 minutes long, titled "Student Rejected by Every College Builds Successful App." They showed Ryan at his computer talking about his journey. They showed business owners praising his work. They ended with Jennifer's voiceover. "Sometimes rejection leads us exactly where we need to be." Ryan turned his biggest disappointment into an opportunity to make a real difference in his community. Ryan felt embarrassed watching himself on TV, but his mom was crying happy tears. "I'm so proud of you," she kept saying. He thought that would be the end of it. A nice local news story that his parents could show to relatives. But then something unexpected happened. The next morning, Ryan woke up to hundreds of notifications on his phone. The news station had posted the segment on their social media pages, and it was being shared like crazy. By lunchtime, it had thousands of shares. By the evening, it had tens of thousands. People were commenting on the post, sharing their own stories of rejection and comeback. Parents were tagging their kids, saying, "See, there are other paths." College students were saying they felt inspired. Someone had screen recorded the segment and posted it on another platform, where it got even more views. Ryan's email inbox exploded. Business owners from neighboring towns were reaching out, asking how they could use his app. Students were sending him messages asking for advice. A few tech blogs had picked up the story and written articles about him. One headline read, "Teen rejected by all colleges teaches himself to code, helps local businesses thrive." Tom called him into his office, grinning. "Have you seen what's happening online?" Ryan nodded, still in shock. "I don't understand why people care so much." "Because your story is relatable," Tom said. "Everyone's been rejected from something. Everyone's felt like they weren't good enough. But you didn't just sit around feeling sorry for yourself. You did something about it. That resonates with people." Over the next week, the story continued to spread. It got picked up by a few national websites. A popular podcast about entrepreneurship reached out to interview him. His app downloads increased from 50 local businesses to over 200 businesses across 3 states. Ryan's former high school reached out, asking if he'd be willing to speak to current students about alternative paths after graduation. His old guidance counselor, Mr. Patterson, called him personally. "I owe you an apology," Mr. Patterson said. "I told you that college was the only path to success. Clearly I was wrong." "You weren't wrong," Ryan said. "College is great for a lot of people. It just wasn't the right path for me right now." But the attention was overwhelming. Ryan wasn't used to people knowing who he was. He couldn't go to the grocery store without someone recognizing him from the news story. His social media following went from a few hundred friends to thousands of strangers. His friends from high school, the ones who had gone off to college, started reaching out. Some were genuinely supportive. Others seemed almost jealous. Jake, his best friend who had gotten into his dream school, sent him a text. "Dude, you're famous." That's crazy. Ryan didn't feel famous. He felt the same as he always had. He was just a guy who liked solving problems and writing code, but one message stood out from all the others. It came through his professional email account, the one he used for app-related business. The subject line read, "Research Opportunity, Harvard Business School." Ryan stared at that email for a full minute before opening it. Harvard. The same Harvard that had rejected his college application a year ago. What could they possibly want with him now? Ryan clicked on the email with shaky hands. It was from a professor named Dr. Catherine Mills at Harvard Business School. He read it 3 times to make sure he wasn't misunderstanding. "Dear Ryan, I recently came across your story through various media outlets, and I was deeply impressed by your journey and entrepreneurial initiative. I'm a professor at Harvard Business School, and my current research focuses on resilience, entrepreneurship, and non-traditional paths to success. I believe your experience would make a fascinating case study for my research. Would you be open to a conversation? Best regards, Dr. Catherine Mills." Ryan sat back in his chair. Harvard wanted to study him. Not admit him, but study him. He wasn't sure how to feel about that. Part of him felt validated. The school that had rejected him now thought he was interesting enough to research. But another part of him felt like a lab rat. He showed the email to his mom that evening. She read it and looked up at him with wide eyes. "Harvard wants to talk to you?" "Apparently. Are you going to respond?" Ryan shrugged. "I don't know. What am I supposed to say? Thanks for rejecting me last year, but sure, let's chat." His mom gave him that look she always gave him when he was being stubborn. "Ryan, this is Harvard. Whatever your feelings are about what happened last year, this is an opportunity. At least hear what she has to say." Ryan knew his mom was right. He replied to the email that night, keeping it short and professional. Dr. Mills responded within hours, suggesting a video call for the following week. The days leading up to the call felt strange. Ryan kept thinking about his college application from last year, the one Harvard had rejected. He had spent weeks on that application, carefully crafting his essay, getting the perfect recommendation letters, listing all his achievements, and they had said no without a second thought. Now they wanted something from him. The video call was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. Ryan took the day off work, telling Tom he had an important meeting. He set up his laptop in his bedroom, making sure the background looked decent. When Dr. Mills appeared on the screen, she wasn't what he expected. She was younger than he thought a Harvard professor would be, maybe in her early 40s with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me," she said warmly. "I've been following your story, and I have to say it's exactly the kind of real-world case study that my research needs." They talked for 20 minutes about her research. She was studying people who had faced significant setbacks and turned them into opportunities. She was interested in understanding what separated people who gave up from people who found new paths forward. "Your story is particularly interesting," Dr. Mills explained, "because you faced rejection from the traditional system, but instead of letting it defeat you, you created your own opportunity. That kind of resilience and initiative is what I'm researching." Ryan found himself relaxing as they talked. Dr. Mills wasn't condescending or treating him like a curiosity. She asked thoughtful questions about his app, about what motivated him to keep building it, about how he had taught himself to code. "Can I ask you something honestly?" Dr. Mills said after a while. "When you got those rejection letters, what was your lowest point?" Ryan thought about that day in the kitchen when the 15th rejection came. "I think it was when I realized that I had done everything right, at least according to what everyone told me to do, and it still wasn't enough. I felt like the system was broken, or I was broken. I wasn't sure which was worse." Dr. Mills nodded thoughtfully. "And when did that shift? When did you stop feeling broken?" "I don't think there was one moment," Ryan said slowly. "It was gradual. Every time I helped a business owner solve a problem, every time someone told me my app made their life easier, I felt a little less broken." I realized that maybe the traditional path wasn't the only way to matter, to make a difference. They talked for over an hour. Dr. Mills asked if she could include his story in her research, interview him more extensively, maybe even feature him in a paper she was writing. Ryan agreed. As the call was winding down, Dr. Mills paused. "Can I ask you something else?" "Have you thought about reapplying to colleges?" The question caught Ryan off guard. "Honestly? Not really. I've been too busy with the app and work. Would you consider it if the right opportunity came along?" Ryan wasn't sure how to answer. "I guess it depends on what the opportunity is. A year ago, I would have done anything to get into college. Now, I'm not sure I need it the same way. I'm learning more right now than I probably would in a classroom." Dr. Mills smiled. "That's a very mature perspective. But let me ask you this. What if you could do both? What if you could continue building your app while also getting a formal education? I mean, sure, that would be ideal. But college is pretty all-consuming, isn't it?" "It can be," Dr. Mills said carefully. "But there are ways to make it work, especially for students who have already demonstrated real-world skills and initiative." There was something in her tone that made Ryan curious. "Why are you asking?" Dr. Mills leaned forward slightly. "I'm not just a researcher, Ryan. I also sit on various committees at Harvard. And after talking with you today, after seeing what you've accomplished in just over a year, I think you're exactly the kind of student Harvard should want." Ryan's heart started pounding. "But they already rejected me." "They rejected your application based on traditional metrics," Dr. Mills said. "But you're not a traditional applicant anymore. You've proven yourself in ways that a high school transcript never could. Would you be open to me making some calls? No promises, but I think the admissions committee should take another look at you." Ryan didn't know what to say. This felt surreal. "I don't understand. Why would you do this for me?" "Because my research is about identifying resilience and potential," Dr. Mills said simply. "And you have both in abundance. The admissions process isn't perfect. Sometimes we miss people who would thrive here. I think you might be one of those people." After the call ended, Ryan sat in silence for a long time. His mind was racing. A year ago, getting into Harvard had been his biggest dream. Then it had become his biggest disappointment. Now it might be possible again. He went downstairs and found his parents in the living room. "That professor from Harvard," he said. "She wants to recommend me for admission." His mom dropped the book she was reading. His dad looked up from his phone. "What?" "She thinks they should reconsider my application. She's going to talk to the admissions committee." His parents looked at each other, then back at him. "That's amazing," his mom said. "That's wonderful." But Ryan felt conflicted. "Is it, though? I'm doing fine without college. The app is growing. I'm learning constantly. Do I really want to disrupt all of that to go sit in classrooms again?" His dad spoke up. "Son, this isn't about disrupting anything. It's about doors opening. You don't have to walk through every door that opens, but you should at least look inside." Ryan spent the next few days thinking about nothing else. Part of him wanted this so badly it hurt. The kid who had been rejected by 15 schools wanted to prove that he was good enough. But another part of him worried that accepting would mean admitting that his current path wasn't valid, that he still needed traditional validation to matter. A week later, Dr. Mills emailed him again. She had spoken with several people in the admissions office. They wanted to see an updated portfolio of his work, examples of the app he had built, testimonials from the businesses he had helped, and a new personal statement about what he had learned in the past year. Ryan worked on it for 2 weeks, treating it with the same dedication he gave to his app. But this time, he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just telling the truth about his journey. The email from Harvard arrived on a Tuesday morning in March, exactly 14 months after Ryan had received his original rejection. He was at work, helping a restaurant owner troubleshoot a problem with their inventory system when his phone buzzed. He saw the sender's name and his stomach dropped. He excused himself from the call and walked outside into the parking lot. His hands were shaking as he opened the email. He had to read the first sentence 3 times before it registered. "Dear Ryan, we are pleased to offer you admission to Harvard College for the upcoming academic year." He sat down on the curb, still holding his phone, trying to process what he was reading. They had accepted him. Harvard had actually accepted him. After everything that had happened, after all the rejection and self-doubt and building himself back up, they wanted him. But as the initial shock wore off, Ryan realized something. He didn't feel the way he thought he would. When he had imagined getting into Harvard a year ago, he had pictured himself jumping for joy, calling everyone he knew, celebrating like he had won the lottery. But sitting on that curb reading the acceptance letter, he felt something more complicated. Pride, yes. Validation, definitely. But also confusion. His life was good right now. Really good. His app now served over 300 small businesses across 5 states. He was making enough money from it to support himself. He was learning constantly, solving real problems for real people. Going to Harvard meant leaving all of that behind, or at least putting it on hold. He called his mom first. She screamed so loud he had to hold the phone away from his ear. "I knew it," she kept saying. "I knew they would see how special you are." His dad was more measured. "That's wonderful, son. Really wonderful. Are you going to accept?" "I don't know," Ryan admitted. "I need to think about it." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "You're actually considering saying no to Harvard?" "Dad, I have something good here. I don't know if I want to give it up." "You don't have to give it up," his dad said. "You can do both." But Ryan wasn't sure that was true. College, especially a place like Harvard, was demanding. Could he really maintain his app and grow his user base while taking a full course load? Would he have time to provide the support his customers needed? He went back inside and finished his workday, but his mind was elsewhere. That evening, he called Dr. Mills to thank her. She sounded genuinely happy for him. "I told them they had made a mistake the first time," she said. "Your application last year showed potential, but what you've done since then shows character. That matters more than any test score." "Can I ask you something honestly?" Ryan said. "Do you think I should go?" Dr. Mills was quiet for a moment. "That's not a question I can answer for you, Ryan. But I can tell you this. Harvard will give you resources, connections, and opportunities that are hard to find anywhere else. What you do with those is up to you. You could continue building your app while you're here. You might even find ways to scale it bigger than you could on your own." Ryan talked to Tom the next day. His boss was supportive but sad. "I won't lie, losing you would hurt," Tom said. "You've become essential to this company, but I'd never forgive myself if I held you back from an opportunity like this." Over the next week, Ryan talked to everyone he could think of. His parents, his friends, business owners who used his app, his old high school teachers. Everyone had an opinion. Most people said he should go. A few said he should stay and keep building what he had started. The person who helped him most was actually one of his customers, the owner of the bakery, who had been interviewed for the news story. Her name was Mrs. Rodriguez, and she had been running her bakery for 25 years. Ryan went to visit her on a Saturday morning. "I don't know what to do," he told her, sitting at one of her small tables with a coffee and a pastry in front of him. "Part of me wants to go so badly, but another part of me feels like I'd be abandoning everything I've built here." Mrs. Rodriguez wiped down the counter and came to sit across from him. "Can I tell you a story?" she asked. "When I was your age, I had a chance to go to culinary school in New York. A full scholarship, great opportunity. But I had just opened this bakery with my mother and I was terrified to leave. I thought if I left, everything would fall apart." "Did you go?" Ryan asked. "No," she said. "I stayed. And you know what? I don't regret it exactly because I love this bakery and the life I've built. But I always wonder what could have been, what I might have learned, who I might have met, what I might have created if I had taken that chance." She reached across the table and patted his hand. "You're not abandoning us by going to college, Ryan. You're growing. And growth is good. Your app will still be here. Your customers will still be here. But opportunities like Harvard don't come around often." That conversation stayed with Ryan. He spent another week wrestling with the decision, making lists of pros and cons, lying awake at night thinking about different scenarios. Finally, he made his choice. He called Harvard and accepted their offer. But he also made a commitment to himself. He wouldn't abandon his app. He would find a way to maintain it, even if that meant working twice as hard. The businesses that depended on him deserved that much. The response from his community was overwhelming. The local news station did a follow-up story. Local teen who built app after college rejections now headed to Harvard. Business owners threw him a small going-away party. His old high school invited him to speak at graduation, where he told the seniors that there's no single path to success. "A year ago, I was sitting where you are, feeling like a complete failure," he told them. "I thought my life was over because I didn't get into any colleges. But that rejection forced me to find a different path. It forced me to prove to myself that I had value beyond what any admissions committee thought of me. Some of you are going to college in the fall, and that's great. Some of you don't know what you're doing yet, and that's okay too. The important thing is to keep moving forward, even when everything feels impossible. The summer before college was busy. Ryan spent his days improving his app, setting up systems so he could manage it remotely, and training 2 part-time contractors to help with customer service. He also prepared himself mentally for what Harvard would be like. But there was one thing he needed to do first. He drove to his old high school and asked to see Mr. Patterson, his guidance counselor. Mr. Patterson looked older than Ryan remembered, more tired. "Ryan," Mr. Patterson said warmly, "I heard the news, congratulations." "Thanks," Ryan said. "But I actually came here to say something to you. Last year, when I was drowning in rejections, I blamed you a little bit. I thought you had given me bad advice, that you hadn't prepared me for how competitive things were." Mr. Patterson's face fell. "Ryan, I'm so sorry. I should have." Ryan held up his hand. "Let me finish. I was wrong to blame you. You gave me the best advice you had. But more importantly, I need to thank you. If I had gotten into college last year, I never would have built my app. I never would have learned what I was actually capable of. Sometimes the best things come from our biggest disappointments." Mr. Patterson's eyes got watery. "That's very generous of you to say." "I mean it," Ryan said. "Everything worked out exactly how it was supposed to." When August came, Ryan packed up his car and drove to Cambridge with his parents. Moving into his dorm felt surreal. His roommate was a kid from California who had started his own YouTube channel with 500,000 subscribers. They bonded immediately over their shared entrepreneurial experiences. The first few weeks of classes were an adjustment. Ryan was used to learning on his own terms at his own pace. Sitting in lectures and following syllabi felt restrictive at first, but he also found himself energized by being around other ambitious, creative people. His professors were impressed by his real-world experience, and several of them encouraged him to continue developing his app. Ryan joined the Entrepreneurship Club and the Coding Club. He found a group of students who were interested in using technology to help small businesses, and they started collaborating on ways to expand his app's features. What he had built alone in his bedroom was becoming something bigger, something with more potential than he had imagined. He still worked on his app every evening and weekend. It was exhausting, balancing schoolwork with his business, but it was also exhilarating. His customer base grew to over 500 businesses. He hired 3 more contractors. He started charging a small monthly fee, which meant the app was now genuinely profitable. In his second semester, Ryan was invited to speak at a Harvard Business School event about unconventional entrepreneurship. Standing in that lecture hall, looking at students and professors who wanted to hear his story, Ryan thought about how far he had come. 14 months ago, he began, I was sitting in my kitchen reading my 15th college rejection letter. I felt like my life was over. I had no plan, no prospects, no idea what I was supposed to do next. If someone had told me then that I'd be standing here now, I wouldn't have believed them. He talked about his journey, about teaching himself to code, about building something from nothing, about the phone call from Dr. Mills that changed everything. The point isn't that rejection is good, he said. Rejection hurts. It's supposed to hurt. But what I learned is that rejection doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do next. Do you give up or do you find another way forward? After the talk, a freshman came up to him. She looked nervous. I just got rejected from the internship I really wanted, she said quietly. Your story made me feel a little better. Ryan smiled. What are you going to do instead? I don't know yet, she admitted. Then figure it out, Ryan said gently. Create your own opportunity. That's what I did. That night, Ryan called his parents. How's it going? His dad asked. It's good, Ryan said. Really good. I'm tired all the time and I'm probably working too hard, but I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. His mom's voice came on the line. We're so proud of you, sweetheart. You know that, right? I know, Ryan said. And he meant it. As he hung up and looked around his dorm room at his laptop covered in stickers, at the whiteboard filled with code snippets and business ideas, Ryan realized something. Getting rejected by 15 colleges had been the worst thing and the best thing that ever happened to him. It had broken him down and forced him to rebuild himself into someone stronger. He wasn't the same kid who had sent out those college applications. That kid had been looking for validation from others, trying to prove his worth through acceptance letters. The person he was now didn't need external validation. He had proven his worth to himself, and that was enough. Harvard hadn't made him successful. Harvard had simply recognized what he had already become.